Five Nights at Freddy's versus Willys Wonderland. Which one did it better? These two movies are so similar, it's hard not to compare them. And there's probably a lot of people out there that don't even know Willys Wonderland exists, which is a bit of a shame because it's a really good movie. If you are unfamiliar with it, it stars Nicolas Cage, and essentially it's a knockoff of Five Nights at Freddy's. It just has a much lower budget. And the storyline's a little bit different. So Nicolas Cage is essentially a drifter who comes into town, has to work off an automotive bill, takes a job as a night janitor at Willys Wonderland, and unknowingly is going to be attacked by a bunch of haunted animatronics. Five Nights at Freddy's, on the other hand, based off the video game, has a huge cult following, big blockbuster budget, backed by Blumhouse, stars Josh Hutcherson, who is trying to support himself and his little sister, doing what he can to make ends meet. So he takes a security job at Freddy Fazbear's, where he is attacked by haunted animatronics. So you can see the similarities. Now, what's interesting about this is Five Nights at Freddy's has a huge budget. Willys Wonderland doesn't, but I think there's a lot of things that Willys Wonderland did better than Five Nights at Freddy's, and vice versa. So that's why we're going to talk about the storyline, the characters, the cinematics, and overall fun factor of these movies. And I'm going to start with Willys Wonderland, because this is the underdog here, right? But it does star Nicolas Cage. He's an incredible actor, and what's interesting about this is he doesn't speak a single word the entire movie. Not one line he has in this entire movie. Everything that he says is through body language and facial expressions, and it is just incredible how he does it. He plays the tough guy who doesn't take any crap. He's obsessed with this punch energy drink, and he isn't even fazed at his first encounter with an attack from an animatronic. He just buckles down, pulls out the tough guy routine, and beats the crap out of this thing. But over at Five Nights at Freddy's, Mike does what every normal person's going to do. When they find out an animatronic is haunted and is trying to kill you, he's going to freak out, which essentially I would probably do. I would freak out. And you go into survival mode. That's about all you can do at that point. The interesting thing about these animatronics is Five Nights at Freddy's is haunted by children who were murdered by essentially a child abductor / killer from way back in the day who hid the bodies in the animatronics, so now the animatronics are haunted by the children. But over at Willys Wonderland, there were multiple murderers, and they basically pulled a Chucky, is what I'll call it. They switched their souls into the animatronics before they were captured by the police, and now all the animatronics there are haunted by murderers trying to continue their spree. So for me, the haunted animatronics in Willys Wonderland makes more sense than children, because why would children be trying to kill random people? Although we know why, they were being controlled by the bunny. But to say that there are murderers haunting animatronics just makes more sense of why they're still killing. And the whole town is behind this one. They all know what's going on, and they're feeding the animatronics at Willys Wonderland so that they don't come out of the building and continue slashing citizens of the town. Now, before I get into the characters, why don't you leave your comments down below who you think did the storyline better, Five Nights at Freddy's, Willys Wonderland. I know there's a huge cult following here. I got a feeling Five Nights at Freddy's is going to win with a landslide, but try not to be biased. Now, the characters at Five Nights at Freddy's need no introduction, but we're going to do it anyway. We got Chica and Cupcake, Bonnie the Bunny, Foxy, and of course, Freddy. Over at Willys Wonderland, we have Gus the Gorilla, Nighty Night, Artie the Alligator, Tito the Turtle, Cammy the Chameleon, Siren Sarah, and of course, Willy the Weasel. Now, I think both movies did really well with these characters. Jim Henson's studio did create Five Nights at Freddy's animatronics, and of course, they are astonishing. They are so well done, basically what you would expect from Jim Henson, of course, and they really did bring those characters to life in such a way that it is practically cinematic genius. Then we have on the other side the lower budget Willys Wonderland characters who don't have such a realistic feel that Five Nights at Freddy's does. Once they come alive, the animatronic aspect of them is strictly the heads. The eyes, the mouth, things like that. The body itself, it's very easy to tell it's someone in a suit. But that's not necessarily a bad thing, because I like the way that those characters were portrayed. While on stage in the animatronic form, I guess we'll call them robotic form, their movements and stuff were very animatronic, and I liked it. Once they came to life and they started battling with Nicolas Cage and some of the other characters that were involved in the movie, it got to that point where it almost needed to be a little more humanized to get that scene right. So for the budget they had, I think they did really, really well, but I think in my eyes, because of course, Jim Henson and the talent in which they have, Five Nights at Freddy's wins the animatronic aspect of things. And but I don't want to take that away from Willys Wonderland. It's still, they did a great job. I think they really brought it to life, and it was a lot of fun. Which brings us to the cinematics. And of course, with Blumhouse and a big blockbuster budget behind it, Five Nights at Freddy's did an incredible job. There were so many cool angles and scenes, and the way they played with lighting, it was incredible. Blumhouse's specialty is horror, and they really did bring the horror aspect to life in this movie. So I got everything I expected with this movie in relation to cinematics, directorial perspectives, and that kind of thing. I mean, when you go into a Blumhouse movie, you kind of know what you're getting into. It's their bread and butter. That's what they do. But Willys Wonderland, not a well-known production company, not a well-known director. Everything, again, very low budget. But I think what they did with it was really incredible. They had some scenes and cinematics and camera angles that would rival Five Nights at Freddy's. I'm not saying beat it, but they got close. It was very impressive what they did with this movie and how they kept you drawn in and kept the action going and the suspense high. I was super impressed with this. And of course, with Nicolas Cage doing what he does, keeping that suspense up and keeping you locked into his character, of course that's going to help. Now lastly, I want to talk overall fun factors for these movies, because this is where I think the comparison gets even tighter. But then again, I know we have the huge fan base of Five Nights at Freddy's, and the fun factor for them is extremely high. This is a lot of fan service. So Five Nights at Freddy's fans are absolutely going to love this movie, hands down. They will not even look at Willys Wonderland, I don't think. But if you do, which I hope you do, give it a solid chance. Five Nights at Freddy's was a lot of fun. I enjoyed the movie. I thought there was a lot of fluff put in there that I think we could have cut down on. It just kind of took me in and out of the movie a little bit. And there was one scene, this is the one spoiler I'll give you, that I just really removed me from this movie. And that is when Mike and his sister Abby went into Freddy's with the cop Vanessa and started building a fort out of tables and chairs with the animatronics. Now everybody's buddy, and it's like, what? That part really removed me from the movie, and I was just like, are we serious right now? These things are supposed to be killing everyone, and you're playing fort with them. I don't get it. I understand that they're haunted by kids and they're going to have a playful aspect of things, but that really took the horror out of the movie. From that point, I had to put myself back in the movie somehow. It broke the connection that I had with the movie. Willys Wonderland, on the other hand, didn't have that problem. There was no friendly game time here with the Willys Wonderland characters. They were just straight up ready to kill you at any point in time, and you had to be ready. I like the fact that there was more blood in Willys Wonderland, a little more language, a little more adult. That's why this one's rated R. And when Nicolas Cage is actually fighting these creatures and beating them with sticks and chairs and swords and all this other things that he's using, they're oil from the inside of them. They are animatronics. The oil is coming out as if it were blood, and it's just spraying everywhere. And I thought that was a cool twist to things, which added a whole different element to this than Five Nights at Freddy's did. And since the entire town is in on this, and they're feeding all these innocent people to Willys Wonderland, it also added a little bit different aspect to the story that I thought was a little more interesting. For a low budget movie, I was super impressed with this. It was really engaging. It really kept me involved in the movie, where Five Nights at Freddy's kind of broke it up a little bit. I was in it, I was out of it, I was in it, I was out of it. So I think if I had to personally choose one of the two movies to watch right now, it would probably be Willys Wonderland. But I want to know what your thoughts are. Five Nights at Freddy's versus Willys Wonderland. Put it down in the comments. I have a feeling I know where this is going to go, but we're going to put it out there anyway. Don't forget to drop a like on the video and hit that subscribe button on your way out.